Welcome to Self-Perfected.
Now we're good. Oh, perfect.
Why did that sound so
Perfect
shitty?
timing.
Did that just sound shitty for me? There's like some muffled ass librarian voice.
We're doing a new intro, Cam? Or are we all just
well, I just want someone to take that out of context at some point.
Oh, for sure.
Like, see, they're Illuminati.
For sure. There's, all those like clips of like celebrities on couches and shit. Like they even put their hands remotely in a triangular shape. It's like, see, Hollywood.
It was like literally the person's like, do you want square or triangular pizza? And they were like, because they like, it was too far away. So they were like, triangle. Right. And that's all it was. And they're like, see evidence of the Illuminati. And I'm like,
yeah. Okay.
like you need evidence of the Illuminati.
Right. Just look at
You know
your
what I'm saying?
$1 bills, everybody.
But just look at the fucking world. Like people are making decisions that obviously like are behind the scenes. And you're like, no, I know they exist because I saw Jay-Z do this. And you're like, that's the evidence you fucking need. You can't just like look and be like, I mean, look at this fucking economy and the crash. And like, that was obviously planned.
So that kind of reminded me of like last week, we missed talking about Kanye, really. I mean, we talked about him a little bit, but there was this point that was just so funny to me because like whenever Kanye gets into controversy, I'm always just like, I guess Kanye did something because I can always see Black people around me getting upset. They're always mad at Kanye. And I'm like, I guess Kanye did something. And then I looked at like basically just really briefly what it was that he did. And he just wore a shirt that said, like at that time, it hadn't progressed to where it is now. But at that time, he had just worn a shirt that said White Lives Matter. Right.
He didn't just wear a shirt. He did it at like the Paris fashion show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like,
and he had
it takes a little bit of balls to do that.
And he had the necklace of the sonogram of like a fetus. Did you also know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know he did that at the
I didn't see that
same
part.
time.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I just saw that he wore a shirt that said White Lives Matter and it was at some event. I didn't care about what the event
was.
Which
I disagree with, but go
ahead. Okay.
You disagree that White Lives Matter, Cameron? Did you not look in the mirror this morning? I know you think you're Black. Okay.
I assessed myself. I do not matter.
But it was so funny because when I saw that and I just saw all the hate that was coming, all the like people up in arms, I just turned to Christina and I was like, this is it. This is the straw that broke the camel's back. Oh, this is where I draw the line. This is it. Like, those 20,000 kids that die every day. Fuck them. Nope. But this White Lives Matter. How dare you?
Right. The Great Reset and this proposal to put us all into a new form of feudalism.
Don't give a fuck.
That's
wearing masks all the time. Masks, forced vaccines. Makes you sound muffled now.
Yeah, you do sound muffled, Mitch. I think
like
it's just
maybe you're touching the mic or something.
Yeah.
No, it's fine now. It was just that moment.
Whoa.
Like you.
Whoa.
Are you covering
like
something?
Covering something.
No. Is this covering something?
I don't know.
Okay. Well,
it sounded like it was
to be continued. Maybe. I'm just gonna keep everyone on their edge of their seats.
I'm waiting.
Yeah. We're all just like, yeah.
Let me get to the edge of the seat.
I just had a thought because I was like, I'll keep you on the edge of your seats. Like, unless you're driving, then like drive safely. I was like, I wonder where people listen to this podcast. So when they're not listening live, I think they're like at their office at their just shitty job, and they're like, they're like flipping burgers, listening to the Self-Perfected podcast.
I don't know. I send it to people, and I'm like, listen to this on a long drive. Just go ahead. Just turn it on.
I'm like, listen to this full volume at the busiest street corner in the city near you.
Boombox.
I like that.
As well standing on a soapbox with a robe.
Especially the intro. Make sure that shit's loud.
First of all, I have never, ever gone to a store and seen a soapbox. Like, where do you get it? Like, does soap come in a box? I don't even think it comes in a box.
I think you can only get it at like a theater. Like you have to go to a theater and steal their.
I don't know. Amazon Basics probably has them.
I was gonna say if you buy in bulk in Amazon, definitely you get soap and soapboxes.
No way.
I
There's
prefer to
no
drop
way.
ship them from Alibaba, and it takes at least 4 weeks to get here.
So White Lives.
Well, I was just
Yeah.
bringing that up because
Oh,
you were talking about like how they need a symbol for how things are going wrong. It's just like
I get it now. Yeah.
it's the silliest thing. It's like, come on, like really
Now I'm
that's
pissed because he said the White
right.
Lives.
Like
Matter.
you
Yeah.
should be pissed about the fact that right now, literally every media that you can think of, whether it be news, whether it be music, whether it be like movies, television shows, cartoons, all of it, all the media is basically attempting to break down people in a sense where they feel no connection to anything at all, so that all they do is they want to buy shit and they want to be like led by other things. Like Mitch, what you were just saying, this song that they were singing at this church
Mhm.
about how people are like,
It's like,
I am
the
the
Lord
sheep.
is my savior. The Lord is
yeah.
my savior.
No, but that part you said, I am a sheep.
I am
the
a sheep. It's just like, how blatantly
Literally saying,
can you
"I am
fucking
a
say
sheep."
it? Yeah. And that's literally where we're at right now, where people either, some people recognize it. We had somebody come to our clubhouse, not this past week, but 2 weeks ago. And he literally said, I'm one of those like sheep people. I just kind of go with the flow. I was like, what the fuck?
Damn. That
Yeah,
dude
I
What
like
drank
the
the Kool-Aid.
fuck, dude? Are you serious?
He's being self-honest, at least.
He was. But
Kind of. Well, then,
but-
okay, Drake, that's interesting. You're talking about how the media is doing that. I was like, like, I wonder what the average person would say about like the main things that they love in the media, like movies. So I just looked up top lifetime grossing movies. I'm like, okay, let's see
Like
what
on
the
Lifetime?
programming is.
don't watch Lifetime. That is
No,
terrible,
like
terrible
like,
channel.
like of lifetime, like in our lifetime, Drake. Come
Oh,
on,
Of all
okay.
time.
come on. No one watches
Citizen,
lifetime. movies.
Citizen
Unless they're-
Kane.
come on.
I'm gonna go with Avatar. It's one of those, maybe. What do you got out there?
Didn't I tell you I'd leave you on a cliffhanger? I'll tell you the
Told me
third.
the edge of my seat.
I'll
I
tell
was
you the
not
third.
I don't
expecting to
understand the
be
whole
on a
Avatar
cliff.
thing.
On
Real
next
quick.
week's episode, we will find out.
Hey, no, I'll do a top 5 countdown, 5 to 1. Okay.
Hold on, the Avatar point, doesn't that seem artificial? like,
How do you mean?
It's literally.
I
artificial.
saw it. How was so great about it?
James Cameron, bro.
First off, James Cameron is the best director.
Titanic
of
is
all
way
time.
better.
Didn't I mean, maybe it's just my perspective, but like I
No,
feel
it
like
wasn't really that good.
it's
I
super
think it
over.
was
Like,
this-
how is it the greatest grossing or watched? Or I'm like, what? It's just like a fucking animated movie. What's the big deal?
It
Well,
was-
grossing is not going to mean that it's good. It's just like how much money it made.
means
How
that
do they
it-
make so much money with it though? That's something weird there.
Yeah, there's something weird. Well, and
You know what
and
though? But think
it's-
about what it is. Isn't it
it's-
sort
it's
of like
colonizing? It's like the colonizing. You got the environment. You got the different races battling.
yes,
But isn't
yeah,
it also sort of like a metaverse, subconscious metaverse
yeah.
Yeah.
sort of a
100%.
thing? Because remember, like he like plugs into the thing and he like can control this other body.
there's
so
a
it's
new
a
Avatar coming out.
transhumanism thing.
Yeah.
Like
it
there's a
was
reason
beautiful.
why it was high grossing.
Did
Huh?
you see all those colors? It was beautiful. And like, the tails, like don't you want
That
a
was
tail?
like the thing where everyone's like, it's so amazing. The computer generation is just beyond anything. And I
that
remember-
was the main point that everybody would say.
it's like this
"Are
is
you-"
right.
obviously fake. Like
yeah.
I
Like
can't even
the
really-
computer graphics were being developed over like 10 years. Like I remember that being a huge
But
thing.
okay, well, I don't know. It's interesting because like if you get a hype enough to want to go see it, then you pay the money. Therefore, they get the the revenue and the profit.
But that's what I'm saying. Was it just the marketing of it?
I don't
I
know.
think so.
Because also though, a lot of it I've heard with movies is like you do everything for that first day, and then the rest you're really banking on word of mouth. I don't know how true that is, but I've heard people say that. But okay, top 5, right? Let's see what they program people with.
Okay, wait. Harry Potter's got to be in there. I'm guessing it's got to. Well, I don't know. Are we talking about series or just like individual movie?
Individual movies.
Okay,
Okay,
maybe
it's
Harry
interesting.
Potter's not in there.
Actually,
He's
okay,
already
this
got a
counts.
list. Can you just
Okay.
fucking read it?
Wait.
I actually need to read the top 10 because this is actually teaching us a lot about ourselves. Okay.
Okay,
All
go,
right, cool.
go.
Number 10, Furious 7. Think about
As
it.
in
Like,
Fast and
must be
Furious?
Fast and the Furious. I've never seen any of those. But look at that word, furious. Isn't that fucking crazy?
You never seen
Number
any of
10?
them?
Bro. No, number 7. Number 7 is the 10th most. Okay. 9 is the Avengers. 8 is Lion King. Fuck Lion King. 7 is Jurassic World.
Wait.
Avengers
Like the
was
live
number
action.
nine.
Not even fucking
Wait.
real.
Live
What was that
action
one?
Lion King.
No, Lion King, like the one with Beyonce in it, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
the live action. Okay.
Oh.
Let me just
This is
go through
highest
these names
grossing
real
or
quick.
most watched?
Highest grossing. We could also look at most watched, but
Okay, so first off, Furious, Avenge, Lying King, right?
Wow. And then Jurassic World. What does Jurassic even mean? Isn't that like
Your
a-
ass ick. Big ass Lizzo. It's like the
Your
whole-
ass.
Oh, Lizzo, yeah. Shout out
Okay, I got you.
That is hate speech.
Which one was it? Jurassic what?
World.
Jurassic World.
Not even the first one, which was
So like the
actually
newer
the best
ones
one.
with like Chris
Okay,
Pratt.
let's go back to the beginning. Okay, what was it?
Furious.
Furious.
Haven't seen it. All right,
Avengers.
haven't seen it.
You never saw Avengers?
Which Avengers was it?
The Avengers, just the classic one. Don't worry, the next one's coming up higher.
I've seen Lion King.
But you
Oh no,
haven't
but
seen
this is a
that
live
one.
action one.
The
Nope,
live
haven't seen
action
it.
one. Yeah.
The original
Okay.
Lion King.
But I guess if it wasn't made in the last 10 years, I probably haven't seen it.
Okay. What's
I
the
mean,
next
if it was
one?
made within the last 10 years, I mean.
Yeah. What's the next one?
Jurassic World.
The next
And
one?
then we got Spider-Man No Way Home is number 6.
No Way Home.
Right.
don't know
Never
what
seen
that
any
is.
of these
Okay.
except for
Check
Lion
this.
King.
Check this. Number 5, Avengers Infinity War. Never ending war. Look at that.
We have one of those.
Wait, and the previous one was No Way Home.
Yeah.
It's like you're not ever gonna get back to who you are.
Yeah. Okay. 4, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. That one was so fucking lame.
The Force Awakens, forcing you to get a vaccine.
Wow. Yeah.
keep going.
Forcing you to wear a
hey,
mask.
okay, this is fascinating. Right before we get to the top 3, right? This is like I'm just like sweating right now. Okay, I saw Avengers and Avengers Infinity War and The Force Awakens at all different times, and all of them had this final battle scene that was just way too much. You know how some people say things are extra? They're like, "That's so extra." Drake, you probably know, right? Bro, it was extra.
Why would
on
I
extra.
know? Why me?
Because you're part
You're
Chinese.
just in tune with the culture, man. You know.
Gotcha. Okay.
It was extra as fuck because it's like the the main battle and then like each hero and then that corny fucking scene in every movie which is so not accurate where then the bad guy, he's got like his foot on the neck of the good guy, he's like, finally I will kill you, and then he like raises the sword and then boom, he gets like headshotted, right? Which it's like if you're in fucking war, you're just gonna kill the person, right? I mean,
Of course.
Anyway. But it was like literally, it was crazy because I could feel within myself like all this extra stuff, and I'm like, this is going on really long. But you see it because nowadays people are so impulsed with everything; they need that like extensive, shit. And then then they tie in the love scene and all that stuff. So anyway, okay, that was 4. Now Titanic is number 3.
Oh,
I've seen that.
I don't know if this is a rumor, but it was the 2 guys that were opposing. It's like John Jacob Astor or something. I don't know, is the guys that were opposing the Creature of Jekyll Island thing? They were both
yeah.
on Titanic. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Titanic, sinking ship, economy, globalism.
Okay. Check this. Number 2, Avengers Endgame.
Is that 3 Avengers movies now?
Yes.
Yes.
What the fuck?
Well, this is why I actually brought it up because I knew Avengers would be on here.
Wait, was there
But-
3 on here? I
Yeah,
must have missed
3
the
different
second one.
Avengers.
Oh, Infinity
Avengers,
War. That's right.
Infinity War, Endgame.
So everyone is looking for this superhero, or this group of superheroes to fight off some alien thing, right?
To have an Infinity War.
Right. With the
No Way
Endgame.
Home. Oh, that was a different one.
Well, but I think he's in the Avengers. I don't know. It's so.
Oh, that was the Spider-Man, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, number 1 of all time, Avatar. So you can have an Avatar in the metaverse.
See, but that's I think was
wait.
the reason why it was so heavily impulsed because
So
you're
Avatar
Avatar.
was number 1.
That's it.
I
Yeah.
called it.
Avatar,
All right.
Avatar's number 1. Still.
Yeah.
Highest grossing of all time still.
Still, yeah.
But I mean,
Is
it's
that
gonna be
high-
hard to beat that because people don't go to the movies as much.
Yeah, people don't go to
anymore.
the movies anymore.
So
And then, even if you look at 11 and 12, it's Top Gun Maverick, which is war, and then 12 is Frozen 2. Like, what the fuck? It's crazy.
climate change.
Black Panther is number 14. Yeah.
Racism.
Panthers.
And he's in the Avengers anyway. So anyway,
Yeah.
that was just like, that's a glimpse into the media of, like Drake, you were saying, why are people not outraged about that?
Yeah.
You know, that's like literally what kids are being impulsed with. I mean, the average kid in America, at least, has probably seen like all those.
Oh, I'm sure.
For sure.
Multiple.
100%. Like uh it's hard to describe to people just like the extent of indoctrination, brainwashing, all of that is just so like it's permeated every part of our culture, you know, where it's like it's not just happening in schools. It happens a lot in schools. And like if you don't realize that, it's like, well, that's just the first piece. But it's happening everywhere within everything that we do, even within like you know, Cam, you'd made that post in the parenting group about trick or treat, right? And Daniel, frozen, can't move, you're stuck. That's a good one, Daniel. That's a good one. But yeah, just like that point about like trick or treats, just like, what are we teaching kids just by that? You either give me what I want or I will fuck your shit up. Like I'm gonna fuck up your house. I'm gonna like I will be upset. And it's really like, remember when we were talking about like the Black Lives Matter protests, how just like people were demanding that this happen, and it was almost like a kangaroo court, or like a you know, when we would read about in history, you know, these people being brought up to the Communist Party and then being executed in front of everybody, and like there was no
Kind of like a lynch mob.
exactly, it was a lynch mob.
What is mob rule? It sounds like that's what that is.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's mob rule. Do you have the definition? You want to read it out?
Mob rule: control of a political situation by those outside the conventional or lawful realm, typically involving violence and intimidation.
There you go.
Voila.
There you go.
Vocabulary.
And so we're essentially teaching children, and this has been going on for ages, to rule by mob rule. And that is what we see on like social media for sure, right? But the interesting thing is, it's like this. Here's what I find really interesting about the whole thing, is that you don't even know who your neighbors are in this mob.
Well,
And so it could be, and I think this is the part that gets Alex Jones in trouble so much, is that he's like, these people are actors and all this, right? Which may or may not be the case. But the important part is when you go on the internet, there's definitely bots. Those are definitely not real people from the perspective of like, it's not your neighbor, your friend wouldn't say that. But if you have enough people in a crowd doing one thing, it's like we've been conditioned to the point where something takes over and you're just like, I just got to go along with the crowd, even if you have no idea who this crowd is or what they're thinking, or like you don't even know if they're real or not. But it's just like I'm going along with it, and then the next thing you know, you're thinking those things. Go ahead.
That's like the haters on TechnoTutor, the haters on Self Perfected. It's like they're not even actually thinking. They're just like, oh, there's a group coming together, and then they see you have some success, and then the jealousy kicks in. They're like, yeah, well, you know, perfected. It's like a triggering word, right?
Yeah.
You just go right into that program.
I bet if we were like climate perfecters, we would not get that hate. You know, like everybody would be on our side. Everybody. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Remember, what was that one thing called, that climate group? You sent this a while ago, Cameron.
Yeah, it was like the youth, the young.
Yeah, the youth. That were
it's like Extinction Rebellion.
No, it was like
like that, but they were like,
oh, I know what you're talking about.
They had the same color scheme.
Remember they were like posting to the BLM burning down and stuff.
I know what you're talking about. I just remember what it's called.
Yeah, and like AOC was like talking to them on the Zoom call. Anyway, that kind of shit though is like, that's the mob and the mob mentality, you know. Even I was thinking about this too, this idea of mob rule. And another way of looking at it, isn't that like what the deep state and the media and all of this is they're not lawfully put in place. I mean, kind of, because they're under the protection of corporations, which have corporate law, but it's like hidden actors are seeking to push their agenda, right? And if you're not careful, it's like you'll either get caught up into it or they will start to exert influence.
Mitch, did you see that meme? Or maybe you posted it, but it was what are the teacher asking at the front of the class, what are the 3 branches of the government?
No, I haven't seen this.
And it was like pedophiles, media, and I forgot what the last one was, but it was good. It was good. But yeah, exactly. Oh, it was corporations. That's what it was. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Pedophiles, corporations, and the media.
Hey, I found this one too. Last night, I was just scrolling. Every once in a while, I look for memes.
What's it say?
I'll read this. So at the top, it's a picture of like the NSA, and it looks like surveillance stuff. And then below it is Epstein and Maxwell. It said, "Isn't it strange that the largest surveillance apparatus in the world can't seem to figure out who these 2 are trafficking children to?" Like,
That is a little
okay.
strange.
Now combine this with this, right? Because this is high vocabulary. When you have high vocabulary, you can put things together and you can direct reality. So last night, me and Jess, we were like reading different books to Aristotle, and we were reading How to Win Friends and Influence People. And one chapter in it is talking about how you have to dramatize your ideas, because you could say facts all day long. No one gives a fuck. Right? Because you're competing against cat videos and fucking Kanye West and all this stuff. So it's like, it's so fascinating because that in itself is vocabulary. So like, imagine this, you can go through your life and you just see the fucking matrix in front of you and you're just inundated by it. And then next thing you know, you're wearing an Avatar t-shirt, right? And you're showing your kids Avatar and you're just fucking a sheep, you know, singing songs about being a sheep.
Wait, you're fucking a sheep?
No, being a fucking sheep.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I mean,
Good clarification.
yeah.
And the next thing you know, you're fucking a sheep. Wearing an Avatar t-shirt.
See high vocabulary. But like when you have a high vocabulary, specifically from using Technotuber, I'm not saying you're like one of these academic fucking nerds that is, you know, pushing the agenda. And when you have high vocabulary, you can see all these patterns. So you can read a book, you can listen to a podcast, you can build your business, you can talk to people, you can hear opposing views. And it's like you can see what fits together and you become like this. You become like a fucking Avenger superhero, you know, but you get to avenge all the fucked up stuff. And it's so cool. Like I will continuously have people who ask me, they'll either say something like, wow, like do you do this for your business? They'll either think I'm like an attorney or like an expert consultant in like media and stuff or like marketing. They're like, wow, do you like advise companies on this? I'm like, no. I mean, like in an indirect way, yeah. But like it's cool because when you have high vocabulary and you have that resonance, people pick up on it and you become like Neo in the fucking Matrix. You know? Like have y'all noticed?
You know that point you were saying though? I want to go back real quick to that. You were saying you have to dramatize your what was the word? Is like dramatize your ideas or whatever the point was. Yeah. So like if you want to sell somebody, you could just tell them like, okay, this is what it is. Da, da, da. And like when people get into sales, let's say, especially like when you look at the context of network marketing, for example, it's a thing where people who would not normally be in sales because they're just employees get into sales because now they want to build a business, right? And there's not really any other way where people can easily get into a business other than they're like, I have a unique idea or I have some idea and I'm going to try to create it out of nothing, right? So like with network marketing, people, it's the place where you see a lot of people go from employees to trying to somehow build a business, right? And so you get a lot of people who don't like, if you're like, let's say you're a Jeff Bezos, right? And you have this idea and that's driving you and you're just trying to get that across, you'll kind of, you'll end up using whatever expressions you need to convince people, right? And you don't hear about the people who are not successful at it. Because there's some people I'm sure who have ideas and they just suck at getting them across and then you never hear about them, right?
Yeah.
So you don't hear about those ones. So now you look at someone like Jeff Bezos, he was already, yeah.
I just have this perfect example of this. There's this guy who would, let's say I met him at a local event. I won't specifically call it out, but he is convinced he has an idea that's like bigger than one of these big real estate, like a Zillow or something like that. He's like, yeah, like they're missing the biggest piece. Like I've got the answer to it. Like I'm definitely going to become a billionaire from this. But you like look at what he does in his day-to-day life, and it's like he'll get gobbled up by that industry. So
He's just thinking about the idea too, and not really able to. But I was just thinking real quick, like about the Jeff Bezos thing, because I remember when I first started to learn about the story, I'm like, so he was working at some like investment firm, like he just had a job, and then suddenly he became an entrepreneur, and I'm like, I think probably what happened was his ability to become an entrepreneur was delayed because his parents put him in school.
Mm.
If you think about it, like he went to Princeton, he went through the school route and then got a job, and then at a certain point was like, all right, I want to do something now, like of my own, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, so my point being, he already had a lot of that entrepreneur type, not entrepreneur, but like sales vocabulary, that kind of like ability to express ideas. Like when you read about when he was like 8 years old, there's a book that when you read the Everything Story, you'll hear the story. But like he was shadowing this woman who was writing a book on gifted education in Texas. And he was like showing her his ideas of something he was going to build. So he already was in that vocabulary set when he was young.
Mm.
It's just school, I think, then put him into an employee mindset. And then eventually he got out of it. But it's not like he just was like this, like kind of like guy, typing on, like work documents. And then one day was like, I have an idea and suddenly I can sell. You know what I mean? Like he already had a lot of, and I'm not saying he can't develop it. Okay. So what was my point? The average person who is like straight up employee mindset, and now they're going to go into like a network marketing, they're just going to suddenly build a business. Everything is there for them. All they really have to do is sell it. Basically, that's it. They just have to now be a salesperson. But they don't even know that it's like, you don't know what you don't know. They don't even know that they have to be engaging. They don't realize like you have to sell it. Like you were talking about that preacher person at the church, right? Where it's like when they're doing this thing and then suddenly it's like almost like this spirit takes over them, where they're just like, and then like they're channeling, like this energetic point comes through them, right? Like that is selling. And they've allowed themselves to go into that character. They've programmed themselves to do it. Now they wouldn't be honest enough to say that. They would say, no, it's like this actual spirit coming through, or God or whatever, right?
No, it's the Holy Spirit.
But they program themselves, right?
Yeah.
And so that point of dramatizing your ideas, right? I think you're smirking, Drake.
Drake's having flashbacks to when he was a kid.
No, it's because he says, because it's actually dramatized, but sometimes I say dramatized because I'm thinking Dramamine. Dramatize your ideas. It's like people don't realize how much, how kind of, is energy the right word? It's like low energy, like unconvincing. You're not selling it. You're weak. And I think there's a certain degree where it's like nervousness, fear. You haven't done something before. Okay, sure. But just think about if you were an actor and you get up on the stage and you're like, okay, you're reading your lines and you're like, I haven't memorized any lines. You're like, where doth the dove fly at night or whatever. I don't know, whatever the fucking thing you're saying, right?
That should be the name of this podcast.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, you're just kind of like saying it, right? Versus you're like, where doth the, like, and you're like, maybe that's too much. You know what I mean? But like,
no, that was good. That was really good.
You're selling it. You're getting into it. You're making people like engage, right? Well, people don't realize you have to do that. And so they'll blame like whatever the business is. Like they say network marketing is a scam or this or whatever. And it's like, no, you just didn't develop the skill you needed to sell the person. Whether the idea was a good idea or not a good idea, it doesn't really matter. You can sell people on it, even if it's a bad idea, by selling it. It's like salesmanship, right?
Okay. So consider this as in like you're a child. Because I was just thinking of all this while you were saying that. Remember you told that story about Max and that woman who had the shy child and all that stuff, right? And she's like basically like creating her child to be shy, right? And like that's happening to children from a really young age already at the beginning. The parent is taking away from them because it's really obvious that that parent was influencing her child to be shy. And then any child that she talked to, she was just being a bitch to, essentially. And so she's
It's like she didn't want to be bothered, basically.
Right.
So it's like, don't talk to me. Yeah.
right. And so, but obviously that probably happened to her, but she's like taking away from the children
Yeah.
their ability to just go out and express themselves naturally. And then not only that, it's like, then you put your kid in school. And then at school, it's like, you're not allowed to talk here. Like, I distinctly remember when I was in school, like first grade, I remember we had these little alligators that were red, orange, yellow, green. And that determined, you know, if your kid was good in class today or not. And I was pretty much a very good kid, except I like to talk to people. And so I would often come home with like orange alligators, and because I would just be like talking to other kids. It was first grade. I'm 6 years old. Like, what the fuck?
Imagine a parent going like, look, honey, don't worry about those judgments. That's just their structure. Like, it doesn't mean anything about you. And it's like, but you still keep putting them in there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to counteract it. It's like, I talk to my kid about that and I tell them your value isn't based on the teacher's judgment. It's like, but then why the fuck are you putting him in that?
Why would you put them in that environment? Exactly. Why would you?
As if it's not going to have an effect. Right.
Right. And so anyway, but okay, that happens. And then as the kid gets older, what do they see? They see like an older group of kids and they want to be like them. But what happens as each grade you go up, or, you know, you go to fifth grade, then you go to middle school, and then you go to high school? It's like those kids become less and less creative, less of themselves, more of the system, essentially. And they really just seem like more depressed. And for whatever reason, when you're a younger kid, oh, wow, they don't care. It's kind of cool or whatever. Right. But anyway, it's like those kids get to that level, and for their entire lives, essentially, they've been told what to do and how to think, and been hand fed everything they've been given. And so when they get into the adult world, it's like, okay, well, I guess I need a job. Because at that time, they don't have the creativity that they used to have. They don't have the energy that they used to have. They don't have like all the stuff where you would naturally want to go and create your own thing, create your own business. And it would not just delay for most people, it doesn't just delay them. It really just completely strips them of the entrepreneur bone in their body, to the point where they just like, they become a slave, right? And what's even worse is that's just in the context of building a business for yourself. But there's so much more. It's so much more insidious than that, because now it's like a child can't even be certain of the sex that they are, whether they are a male or a female. And so it's taking away any sense of certainty, any sense of them knowing who they are, of them standing up for what is right, or what is the best thing. They will not be able to stand because they have no fucking clue. They don't know, because all that is being systematically stripped away from every single child. And so if you're wondering about what kind of world we're going to have in the next 10, 20 years, just look at that. Keep allowing that to happen. You're not going to have a world at all that's not exactly what like a dystopian future looks like, because it's we're building a foundation of sand, you know, like how a rock can't be moved, how a rock you can build into a rock, how a rock you can really I don't want to say depend on, but you can see, okay, this is stable, right? But sand, it's like sand is really movable. You can shake sand up, you can move it to where you want it to go. And if you're somebody who's in control of like, hey, this is what I want to happen, you want to have something fluid so that you're not fighting against, if it's one small group of people fighting against a whole bunch of masses, you want a really fluid mass to fight against, so that you can control them, so that you don't even have to fight them. And that's the society that's being created right now. And everyone right now is at the point where it's like, I feel like everyone's been bombarded with this idea of tolerance, you know, to the point where the vast majority of people just kind of have their hands up of like, well, just let them do what they're gonna do. It's okay. I don't want to be a bigot. I don't want to be.
Tolerance is not a virtue, but people think it is.
Yeah.
It's literally just, it means to tolerate something. You can tolerate. What does that even mean? Think about it. What does it actually mean to tolerate something? It means already in the word, you're saying you don't agree with it. You're tolerating it. Do you know what I mean? I can tolerate a certain amount of pain.
It's like it's just on the perimeter of your boundary, but you're
Right,
not willing
exactly.
enough to push against it.
It's totally different than agree with. Well, I don't agree with it, but I'll tolerate it. It's like we're just being tolerant.
It
That-
comes from the word Tolio or tell, which means endure.
Toledo. I've been there.
Yeah, the city of enduring. No, Tolian or tell, yeah, which means to suffer or to endure or undergo.
Right.
Wow.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's like you're saying, I am going to allow this to come in and I'll suffer through it, even though I don't agree.
Christine, that
Right.
that imagery that you said of like it's on the edge of your boundary, right? But you're not willing to do anything about it. It's like imagine the boundary has been placed inside of you at this point. It's like you will allow these things to penetrate you. Because we're getting fucked right now.
Literally.
But that's isn't that the case, right?
The
It's like
policeman in the head. They talk about in the Century of the Self the idea that we all have now been so brainwashed, we'll literally police ourselves and each other.
yeah, but you will allow some entity, some people, some idea to trample all over you in the name of tolerance. Like that's the extent.
This one time I posted this picture of Bill Gates when he was like looking really fat. And I was like, he ate too many cricket burgers or something, because he's like pushing his whole soy burger or whatever that thing is. And I was like, yeah, Bill should like, I don't know, something about that, right? And I literally had these people in my comments trying to defend Bill Gates. They're like, hey,
Right.
you shouldn't make fun of him like that. I'm like, you're an idiot.
Because he's obese.
Julius made a comment about, he's saying, he's kind of making a joke a little bit, right? But saying
Yeah,
that
yeah,
like you're being an undercover Christian because you're saying like the sand and the rock foundation
Drake's a
parable.
real Christian.
But here's the thing I want to mention about that. Well, I'll just read it. It says, I see right through you, Drake. Sand or rock foundation parable. Haha. Christianity 101. You're undercover Christian. He's just joking, right? But think about this for a moment. People think that Jesus was a Christian.
He didn't even, Christianity didn't even exist.
I know, I'm not trying to be silly about it. I'm saying he wasn't a Christian. If you're a Christian, Jesus wasn't a Christian. I'm just explaining this to people. Like you're a Christian because you accept Jesus. Jesus was not a Christian. He did not accept a God and a Lord and a Savior and all that stuff. He just did what he would want others to do. The moment you accept a Savior, that's not what Jesus would have done. He was the one saying, hey, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to do what's best. I'm going to talk about things. I'm going to say we should have a world where we treat each other as we want to be treated. That's what he did. So if you're saying I'm a Christian because I believe Jesus because blah, 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 that's not what Jesus did. And then anybody else who's like, well, I don't accept him like a savior. It's more just like about his life and stuff. Then why do you need to call yourself a Christian? Like he was just another person then that had some ideals and some principles. So my point with that is the Christians have taken what Jesus was saying and turned it into a religion and have made it so that it will fit into the control mechanisms to keep people enslaved. So you can't be like, I am the sheep and Jesus is my Lord and shepherd. Like you're bastardizing what Jesus is. He was a person who had principles. That's it. And at the time of the Roman Empire collapsing, he was saying, hey guys, this whole system is fucked and it's collapsing. And we need to create a system that's based on everybody having actual equality. And he said, aren't you all gods? Meaning he was like, you are all equal to me. Like literally, it's like if you look at if you have two kids, a brother and a sister, are you saying one is superior to the other? Or are they just literally both two of your children?
Yeah.
So Jesus is like, look, I'm the brother and you're also one of the brothers and that you're one of my sisters. And like, we're literally just all equal things. But notice the excuse me. The dramatization, right? Of this by using stories. And I'm not talking about the stories that Jesus told. I'm talking about the story of Jesus. Jesus didn't tell that story.
Yeah.
Someone else told you the story about Jesus. So it would contextualize the stories he told in a certain way.
Yeah.
So that you will see him as the superhero savior instead of just listening to what his stories were.
You know what I just learned recently? Did you know that Jesus wasn't even an American?
Hmm?
Fucking ridiculous.
But
not even a real patriot.
But check this out, the dramatization part, right? Like when you watch the Avengers, there is an actual lesson in that movie. When you watch Fast and Furious, whatever the movie is, Titanic, what's the story of Titanic? What's the actual lesson? That that it's actually imparting to a person subconsciously.
If you have a door that you can lie on that fits two people, you should only put one and let the other one just kind of sink to the bottom.
People are all like,
only.
yeah.
I never actually watched Titanic. I knew it like has a fucked ending. So.
But isn't it just? It's like what are some of the points like love, and like
love allows you to cross class lines.
That's why she throws away the gym at the end, because she's like, this priceless gym doesn't fucking matter. It's my love for him that mattered. That's really what this was about and all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, you're still rich. Right. So it's like this idea of love, and then it's okay if you're poor, and there's poor people and there's rich people, and we can all still love it. I mean, there's so many points within it that people don't even notice necessarily, but you are being taught that lesson because but if it was just a story that explained if it was just like literally explaining that on a text on a screen,
in a meme,
rich people can love poor people and blah, 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 like you wouldn't even watch it. You'd be like, boring. But you see the ship, and then it's like this and that, and it's the music and all the things. And so it's dramatizing it. So it's engaging. So then the lesson sinks in.
Wow.
Right. And so that's where, when that lesson in your, how to influence people, you have to be engaging. You have to dramatize it. So stories are extremely effective. That's why people watch movies. They want to be entertained.
This would be so funny. Like, I can't get this idea out of my head. I just have to say this. Imagine, like, at some point they do a dramatization of Self-Perfected, and it's like Cameron is like a little kid, and he's like, going through life, and then like has a bad day, and he's like crying. And then he's like in the Air Force, like questioning himself, and then it like pans over to like me and like elementary school, like questioning, I don't fucking know, right? And then you got like Drake as a little kid, like dressing up as a pastor, right?
Wrestling alligators.
And Sea God I don't know what Sea God was doing as a kid. She's like, and like studying science. She's like, I'm gonna find the secrets of the universe. But it's like a full-on dramatization. That would be so fucking funny.
That description of me was very accurate. I did dress up as a pastor and wrestle alligators.
Notice this. I saw like
Sea
God posted this comment from Alec about, he said Pink Floyd brought these ideas to the public in the 80s. Like, it's such an interesting point, because like I know what he's saying, like, because you like brick in the wall, if not or whatever. What effect did it have?
Got a lot of people that want to take acid.
That's all that happened. Like, people just took a bunch of drugs. I'm not saying that's Pink Floyd's fault. Yeah. And by the way, it's the Pink Floyd. But I'm saying it's not
a Tribe Called Quest. You got to say the whole thing.
It's like, okay, but this is an interesting point, because so everyone has, I mean, not everyone, but a lot of people have seen that, like the video with like the kids, and then they're like basically being indoctrinated in the school, and like all the people who have listened to Pink Floyd, apparently, I mean, that would be the one thing you've heard, right, or seen, right? So how many people have listened to Pink Floyd and been exposed to that?
Millions.
And what fucking effect did it have? It was more like Pink Floyd was just complaining about it. But it's like, now just keep listening to the Pink Floyd record and then go to work. And
then work for the weekend, when you can then take drugs and become comfortably numb.
And that's not Pink Floyd's fault. It's just when we talk about like, oh, these ideas were brought up, there has to be an actual practical way the person can actually change themselves and change the system. Anything else, Jesus brought these fucking ideas up 2,000 years ago.
Lao
That's
Tzu
what I'm trying
talked
to
about this shit
say.
too?
Huh?
Lao Tzu, Confucius.
Confused us.
Dude, I want to see you do some spoken word sometime. That'd be a dramatization.
I'm speaking
Damn.
words right now. What are you talking about?
I mean the cool way. The cool
But it's also interesting that comments like, I'm glad to see this finally being I'm glad to see it's being discussed. It's like that's all we discuss.
I saw in like I was having a conversation with someone who was telling me like they were bringing up this point of like a lot of successful artists as far as well artists in general, but specifically they were talking about artists who sing songs, that a lot of them have gone through some trauma early in their life or whatever, and that shaped their music, and that's what makes them have such great music.
Also,
And
why they became an artist.
Yeah. but also like I was like, but the reason why their music is so quote unquote great is because it's like speaking to that point within everyone that everyone experiences. It's like if no one experienced that trauma, then we could have like what would call out to people would be something completely different, you know, like the reason why like the brick in the wall is like, oh yeah, it's because everybody feels that, everybody recognizes that. It's not something that's like necessarily unique to
how many people fucking listen to Brick in the Wall and were like, yeah, it's so true, and then put their kids in school.
Yeah, exactly.
Or wore a mask. Like the boot, you know what I mean? Like that generation was the one who fully went along with the COVID stuff and did not question anything and, you know, took their vaccine.
I'm trying, how can you quantify how many people listen to The Wall? How many people listen? Maybe I'll find something to.
Yeah, or just look at like the main YouTube
Pink
channel or whatever.
Floyd, The Wall.
Stream.
But I mean, since like whenever they actually made
Since
it,
there's like
80s,
record days or whatever.
It's probably been played just since then like over 1 billion times, you know, like if you go through all the radio plays.
But see, isn't it funny? It's like that's literally what program it got across. Another brick in the wall. It's like it is what you are. But it's actually like pretty cool when you understand what that really means and what the brick wall is within ourselves, and then what we are as a world. You are another brick in the wall.
Whoa.
yeah.
Are we building, or are we using those those bricks to throw through windows like Antifa does?
do they
brick
just
in the
randomly
wall.
show up?
Another brick in the wall, another brick through the window. That shit's crazy, dude.
Did you see
okay, I'm looking up
BLM?
the hold on real quick. The
yeah.
version where it's like, hey teacher, leave those kids alone. You know that part, because it's like 3 parts of the song.
Yeah.
On Spotify, just on Spotify, has 637 million listens.
Wow. Now on YouTube. Go check YouTube.
Comfortably Numb though has 442 million.
Oh, okay.
I like
Right,
that
so-
one song, "Shine On You Crazy Diamond." That one, because I think there's no lyrics to it. It's just like
Shine on
What
you
about
crazy
Dark-
dumbass.
Dark Side of the Moon.
yeah. What the hell is up with the moon?
I know,
Like
it's
really?
fucking weird,
Do y'all
man.
fucking think about that shit?
I know
sometimes?
it's weird.
Like, why is it every single time it's the exact same shape going around?
It's weird.
And it's
Yeah,
also
I mean,
the
like,
same
kinda-
size of the sun, you know?
I know,
Like,
I know, and I'm like,
Hold
trying
on.
to put
It's
the-
not only it's like it's there. I've read someone was like 400 times smaller, and what was it? It was like and 400 times the distance or something like that. It was just like, wow, what a coincidence. And it happens to rotate exactly, so we only see one side of it. It's so strange. Like, what are the fucking odds of all these points?
Yeah.
It's obviously artificial. How many people though then like listen to these ideas? I mean, imagine thinking that because Pink Floyd talked about this, somehow it made a difference. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, see, they were talking about this. And it's like almost like you were like, see, now finally someone's getting it, what they were saying. And it's like, it didn't fucking matter that they said it.
Hmm.
It didn't matter because no one fucking did anything with it. So if someone's saying like, oh, it's cool, I'm glad you guys are discussing these points. Like, oh, finally someone is discussing all of the points that Pink Floyd has been talking about since the 80s. Like finally someone has touched upon this. And it's like, what are you fucking doing about it?
Right. And don't
You're just
pretend
gonna go back and listen to Pink Floyd.
Going off the grid and I'm declaring myself a sovereign citizen. Because that shit doesn't do anything.
Sovereign.
Wow.
Grammar. Ever heard of it?
What was I watching that they were talking about? You
know what the sovereign citizen, hold on real quick. The sovereign citizen point is just to get people to isolate and think that you can be free on your own instead of realizing, no, you are a brick in the wall. You got to fucking change that system. You saw that meat grinder where they put the kids in there or whatever. I don't remember the fucking thing. Like, whatever the point was. Maybe I'm mixing up Monty Python. I don't know.
Casual.
you guys saw that meat grinder where they put the kids in there? Yeah.
Isn't that what they do in it? Or
I don't fucking remember it. But
how do they make the bricks? Sorry, that was Bill Gates' new meat burger. Sorry.
Oh, there we
I
go.
thought it was soap. I thought it was soap.
Imagine that shit.
So
That's the soapbox.
I was just looking at, they're talking about taxing the American people for not going along with ESG. It was this woman, I forgot her name, but she was a Black woman that was recently on the Timcast IRL, and they were talking about ESG and how it's being used to bypass democratic voting. But how it's you silly, you still believe in that anyway. But it's being used to bypass voting at the ballots, to just go directly to corporations and say, here's what you're going to do, and here's the laws that you're going to follow, or else, which is creepy as fuck. But also, what the people who are paying for it aren't necessarily the corporations, it's the average person. And she was talking about how within a partnership like this, or within these guidelines rather, if you decide you're not going to buy this company's stuff because it's green or whatever, and you just want to use oil, which they've said, no, you shouldn't be using oil, and we're putting a tax on that. They will literally just tax the government for not going along with it. And I think the specific thing that they were talking about was like the Trans-Pacific Partnership or something like along those lines, right? But like within these partnerships, it's if you don't buy oil from whoever they deem is the acceptable party to buy oil from, then the US has to pay a tax to whatever company. So even if you were getting it cheaper, even if it was cleaner, but just because you've entered into this agreement, then like we as the people who live in the US end up paying the taxes on that, regardless of whether it's benefiting us or not. And so it's literally just in the name of like this corporation saying, I just made a really great deal, and fuck everybody who gets fucked over by this. They
don't want that variability based on differences in global markets. They want it all comes to them. It's one set standard point. And kind of that point you were talking about earlier about the sand.
Yeah.
And when you look at like the Great Reset and you read like that book that they wrote about COVID-19 and all that, they said like, oh, there's too much variability in the different systems. We need it all just to be one thing.
Yeah.
So we can make sure there's no like, if something happens, we can respond easily. They always couch it in these like nice terms. But
the point that I was making with that is because you guys brought up that word sovereign. It's like, if you were just living out as a sovereign citizen or whatever, it's like they're going to find you via taxes. They're going to find you in some way, and they're going to make sure that you can't participate in anything else in the system. And that's usually what I think people who are trying to be sovereign are trying to do, but they don't realize just how connected to the entire system you actually are. Like if you use gas,
even if you're sovereign, okay, and you make it work, okay, for your whole life, 80 years, whatever. Okay. And then what?
I was sovereign. I
think it
didn't.
just sounds nice to be sovereign, to say that. It has a nice ring to it. I'm a sovereign being. Because
I'm
it's
so
so it's
sovereign.
it's such a because it's such a big thing in the spiritual community. I see so many people who are like, embody and like step into your sovereign being and your sovereignness. And it's just like, in what? In like the reality of like where most of the world is suffering and then you just get to be in your blissful little bubble. Like that doesn't make you sovereign just because you claim it.
If
It's
you were
so
actually sovereign, you fucking
separated from
stand up and
reality.
do something.
You,
Exactly.
you're not even sovereign within your own body. Like you should be the sovereign of your own body, meaning like all the cells, every piece of your body that's like that are living individual things that work together. You should be the one directing that. Like a sovereign in the traditional sense is like a king or a queen. Like they rule the country. They're the ones who make the decisions. You're not even a sovereign to your own body. You don't even direct yourself. You let these thoughts that come in and whistle through your brain, and you're just like, oh, I'm gonna do that now. It's like you have no sovereignty. Like, so shut the fuck up because you have no fucking clue what the fuck you're talking about. Like, it's funny.
And it's really, you're just afraid of getting sucked in, or you have a fear of taxes, death, whatever it is. So you're going to something where you think you're going to have some feeling of freedom within it. And you get the feeling of it just by like pretending that you're on that path.
Yeah.
Okay, check this.
Yeah.
The word sovereign is an anagram for virogenes. You know what a virogene is? A gene in the development of a virus. Okay.
Oh.
So you're like literally a fucking virus in the matrix if you're trying to be sovereign right now. And check this. So when we're talking about
Put the word sovereign through your Techno tutor.
Yeah. Let's see.
No, I'm just saying someone should do that. Like if they're going into the whole what do you call it? Like
idea of it.
The going into all the energy of it and everything, just put into your Techno tutor, because there's some cool points with the word itself, but you have to look at it from a point of equality and oneness, not separation and not energy, right? Because it's like that audio from Bernard called Divinity on Earth. People go in, it's kind of a similar point like you were making, Christine, like the spirituality of it. It's like, oh, I'm a divine being, right? And then somehow that makes you more than what you are right now by realizing this. Instead of realizing, okay, if I am a divine being, I'm a divine being, and this is what I am right now. Like not the divine part, like, but a divine being equals what I actually am right now. Like I get up, I go watch a couple episodes on Netflix, I smoke some weed, I go to my job. Yeah, that's what a divine being does at this stage in evolution. So yeah, you are a divine being, but be honest about what, don't go, oh, so all the physical reality of my reality in my life must be an illusion because I'm actually divine. And if I can just somehow access that, all of this illusion will fall away. It's like, no, this is the reality. So you're trying to change the word and somehow that changes this, but you haven't even looked at how do you live that word effectively, because how would you live divine or divinity in the context of where you're at? That's why we're always talking about, okay, standing up within yourself, within your relationships, and then to the point of changing the system as a group working together within principles. That's what a divine being would actually do. They'd go, oh man, I'm in this super fucking limited state. How do I perfect myself within this? Not how do I just lie to myself that I'm already this amazing thing? But so that's really just a self-judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And you're reacting to a self-judgment by saying that you're divine or saying that you're sovereign. But actually look at what the words really actually mean. And how do you live it in a way that's best for all?
Right.
Yeah. Cam, you brought up this point the other day about I think it was you and me, we were chatting with Avery about changing the system, but doing it daily. It's like people get this idea when they listen to the podcast or be in this group, and they're like, oh yeah, change the system. Yeah, like one day I'll get in politics or one day I'll like be a billionaire. It's like, no, changing the system is every single day, every single moment. It's changing the system within you and then the relationships in your life.
Well, if you've been programmed your entire life to be a slave, and now you're going to stand up and become within the system directive over it and within it as a group, every day you have to be challenging and working on and proving that you're not a slave in the particular point that you were yesterday. Because if you aren't, how are you ever going to get to the point where you're actually at another level or another point of directiveness within the system? So it's not just a thing to listen to and get excited about and feel that you're a part of just because you're in it. It's an actual individual challenge for us each to step up and change according to how do I get to that next point. And sometimes it's like there's only so much you can do as an individual. And then you realize, oh, at this stage, I have to support others to change also and get to the same point. Because if I want to go in to become a senator today, well, I mean, do you even have the network? It's like in Texas, are you going to be able to become a senator if you're not a fucking left-wing crazy person or some right-wing God Christian person? Like, how are you going to fucking do that? Well, you would need lots of people who agree with your principles. Okay. So you have to do it grassroots. So then you have to get a lot of people on board, but then they would have to be able to see like, okay, the beliefs I have either on either side are going to limit us within what we actually would implement if we're in the government. So it can't be done as one person. And that's the major problem with the whole Jesus point is everyone wants to project onto Jesus that he already did it, or he's the one, or he's the savior. And so I'll just keep accepting things the way they are. It's like, so then what did Jesus save you from? Because you're still experiencing as a Christian persecution. And that becomes like sort of it's like, yes, well, even in the ancient Christian times, Christians were persecuted. And it's like, well, okay, so wouldn't that imply you haven't fucking changed anything? Because shouldn't you have already created a world where Christianity is like, assuming it's best, people were not persecuted for it? It's actually gotten worse. And then the only way you can rationalize it is, well, I mean, but when I go to heaven, then the kingdom is going to be there and all this other stuff. And or Jesus is going to come back. Jesus is going to come back like the Avengers, like they come back are from something, you know what I mean? Like, oh, they solved the problem, but then somehow they didn't actually solve the problem. So it got worse. They had to come back and like save everybody again.
Imagine it's more like the Spider-Man No Way Home and Jesus is like somewhere in the metaverse and he's like, fuck, I can't get home.
I saw this.
Jesus lost in the metaverse. Yeah.
I saw this meme and it was like, the world with like Jesus around it, right? And it was like pedophilia, enslavement, like all these like bad things, and Jesus going, yeah, those are the sins I died for. Like it's honestly like, okay, obviously you can see that those things are ridiculous and no one should ever do that, and yet there's again this point of tolerance. I'm just going to use that point because people have let so much shit like it slid so far to the point where they're just like, anything goes, Jesus will forgive you, whatever. Like, Jesus was tolerant. That's what people actually like understand of the story of Jesus, is that he was tolerant. And that's probably why so many people have that as a virtue, because they believe that Jesus was a very tolerant person, because
he was so tolerant that the authorities wanted to fucking crucify him.
Right. Right.
Like, can you imagine you get to that level of like what he was at, where like literally the system is like, we got to kill this person. They're so like fucked.
Yeah.
They're so like, we can't let them influence anybody anymore.
Right. It's like, but people take the stories of like, oh, but he spoke to prostitutes and kids and the tax people and all those people. And so he was so tolerant.
No, that's because those are the only people who could fucking talk to. Because do you think the Bill Gates of that time is going to be like, Jesus, come and talk to me about your ideas? He's going to be like, all right, who's actually fucked by this system that we're in? Okay, who's like just trying to survive and realizes there's a problem in the system? Maybe I can get through to them. Right. But then you heard the story and you're like, oh no, he blessed them and took their sins away. And you're like, that was it. And then what? They continued being a prostitute. They went right back to fucking dudes for cash. Like, is that what happened? Or did they suddenly get a basic income? Like what was the change in this person's life? Like,
for
Jesus,
eternity,
I will stop judging myself for being a prostitute. Like now I can just keep sucking people's dicks, while my baby's crying in the back of the car, for money. But I'm glad that I'm not judged by you, Jesus. I everything has changed in my life.
And Cameron, for eternity, that prostitute is now in heaven.
True.
True. After they went back,
she got her reward. What I don't understand is
For eternity. So she's
If-
still there 2,000 years later.
Christians. I have a question for you. Does heaven already exist,
I think the average Christian would say yes, it already exists.
or is it like it has to be created at some point in the future?
No, it definitely already exists.
I think they would say it
Why?
already
So
exists.
okay. So why aren't you already there?
Well, I
I've
have to
never
die
heard.
first.
Then why were you born? Why weren't you just born in heaven?
Well, Jesus
wanted
wanted
it.
me to accept him first, and then he could let me in.
Doesn't it seem like God has to follow some sort of arbitrary set of like rules? Like he has to follow a story instead of him just being like, what would be the easiest, best fucking way to do this? Let me just, okay, I'm going to create everybody in existence in like heaven and be totally clear with them exactly what the consequences would be of doing certain things, you know, not hold anything back, and like give them every opportunity to be like, hey, this makes perfect sense. Or would it be like, you know, I'm gonna sort of like put them in an environment where they're not quite sure what's going on. It's all pretty good, but they're not really clear. They're kind of innocent and like not really understanding things. And the moment they make a mistake, they're fucking banished forever. And they have to suffer. And their children will suffer. And then eventually Jesus will come back like a war general. And he will decapitate the enemies who made them suffer. Not me. I didn't create them.
Infinity
mean-
Wars.
It's like, what do you fucking believe? Like, how retarded are you? It's
Yeah.
like you literally believe. I mean, imagine you got sold Infinity Wars by a bunch of rich dudes who were the elite who wanted to control everybody as slaves. So they made like the original Avengers TV show or in a
Oh my
book
god.
called the
Yeah.
Bible.
Oh my god.
It's just they didn't have TVs back then. They didn't have whatever media we have now. So now that's why they're getting, we think, oh, Christians are being persecuted. They're trying to remove the Bible. No, dude, because they got way easier ways to brainwash people now. Like, so they're like, we don't want people to go with that. That's like old, that's an old program. We need to update. It's like, do you ever like use an app and it's like, you can't send a message anymore until you update?
Yeah.
Because you're fucking it up for everybody else. They're trying to get the new features and you're on this old app. Can you please freaking update? Like, we're done with we're all slaves to like God and all that. Now we're slaves to the consumer system. You're doing it anyways. Why are you pretending like you're not? You're putting your kids in school. You're shopping at Walmart. You work a fucking job. Oh, but I'm a Christian. And in what sense? In what fucking sense are you a Christian? Oh, I believe in Jesus as my savior. Jesus didn't say to do that. You know who fucking said that? Paul, a fucking Roman secret agent who was like, oh, Jesus came to me. You know what, guys? It's not about equality. It's about accepting the Lord to wipe your sins away. That's what it's about. Yeah, trust me. Like, why are you listening to that fucking dude? He fucking got
Because he had a
zapped by the white
conversion,
light.
Cameron.
He got zapped
Cameron.
by the fucking white light. He was like, all right, time to upgrade everybody. We got
The white
enough
light is
Christians now, let's
God.
convert them into fucking following the system.
You know what the upgrade is? The upgrade is you'll have the new system, but you get to keep the same face of the old system. So it can still look like, you can still call yourself Christian, whatever. That's fine, whatever. But you got to upgrade to the new system. Come on, guys. Come on.
It's like you're using AOL still. And you're trying to pretend like, no, this was the real internet. And you're like, it's the same shit, man.
That's so crazy.
It just works less.
Here in Minnesota, the capital of our state is a city called St. Paul. I remember like driving into St. Paul one day recently and I was like, holy shit, that's the St. Paul. That's the one who like bastardized this whole religion. Wow. That's
Like if you stopped before the St. Paul point, you could take some common sense out of Jesus.
Mhm.
But that whole point was like this thing came to him and it flashed. And then he realized like, oh, I must dedicate my ways to the Lord. And it's like, but it changed the system?
no.
No. Just within the system, use the system to build some places people can go every week and, you know, kind of alleviate some of the guilt and fear and pent up negative energy that they felt from participating in the system all week. Like Christians going to church is no different than teenagers going to the club on the weekend. It's the same thing because they're not doing it from a starting point of changing anything. It's just a way of alleviating. That's like when you go to a self-perfected clubhouse, the whole starting point of it is to actually change yourself and change the system.
That's a really
So you
good
can still
point.
utilize the same system, but with a different starting point. What were you gonna say?
I was just thinking of like, at a certain point, you get too old to go to the club. You know, you can't drink like you used to. Your body is just like, I'm tired.
You're like, I'll just have a sip.
I'll have a sip. I'll
That's
go
the
in the
Catholics.
morning.
I'll just
I'll
have a
go in
sip.
the morning when
I'll
I'm
have a little
wide
bit of carbs and just a little sip of wine.
have a little sip of wine, and then I'll listen to that preacher music. That I am a sheep. Oh yeah, this is my jam. And then I go home, and I got to.
Then I watch football.
Yeah, I watch football. Oh, that's a good weekend right there. That's nice.
That's crazy. I made this post on Facebook today about like remembering, like I used to fucking hate Sundays because I would go to church. I'm like, when is this over? Oh, the worst. It's like an hour-long service. About like 15 to 20 minutes in, you're like, oh,
You're wasting my playtime here.
I know. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, it's not even halfway done. I'm like trying to draw on the bulletin thing. I'm just like, get me home. And then I wanted to watch football. So I'm like, I got to do my homework. I hate homework. I fucking hate homework. And then I'm like trying to watch all the football games. And then like after the main one, I'm like just watching the other one because I'm like, I'm just trying to avoid. And then, oh man, then you have to go to bed and then you go to school. And that's this like one precious life you get with so much fucking cool opportunity. Like I could be like Max and Seneca and Caius, like making cool fucking science experiments or like have animals and like all this cool shit I could be doing. But instead it was like, that was my reality. And I mean, I also realized like I was born in a fucking decent state in America and I had like parents and stuff. Like imagine the kid right now that's like in Ukraine and he's like, it's Sunday. I hope I'm still alive tomorrow because a bomb doesn't fucking blow up my apartment. But it's like, that's what we're fucking allowing. And so when people go on and then they're like, oh, Pink Floyd, yeah, brick in the wall, man. Yeah, let's just be aware of that. It's like, let's fucking change the system and prevent all this bullshit from happening on both a local and a global level. It's the only way forward.
Yeah. So the point is like really just that entire point of, okay, what was Jesus doing to those people that he was talking about? The blessing was helping them to realize like you don't have to live in that same guilt or in that same fashion for the rest of your life. This is not who you are. You are not necessarily the system, although the system is continued by you.
See, but you also like the story, it just kind of abruptly ends.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, there's like a little tiny story that you hear.
Yeah.
But it's like,
In the
what was the
Bible?
actual physical yeah, it's like you just hear this little snippet. And it's like maybe he was like teaching them about forgiveness. And like, okay, now, like you said, you can let go of that point of who you are. Let's stand up together. Like,
Yeah.
come with me, follow me, meaning like, let's actually learn how we can stand up and change the system.
Yeah.
But people thought follow me means just like, oh, you are so, and I mean, he probably was like a really great speaker. And people were like, there's no way I can do it like that. And he was just like, look, dude, I spent like 30 years practicing. Like, what do you think I was doing that whole 30 years when nobody knew anything about me? Do you know what I mean? He was probably practicing and fucking like building his ability and his skill set. I have a theory that Jesus was actually wealthy. They always portray him like he was super poor.
Right.
But think if you were that effective.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he had to be wealthy just because like he always had white robes and like to be like wearing white at that time and not get dirty. Like,
well, but he could float.
Oh, that's true. No dust on him.
No, he had a cloud of like a force field that like repelled dust. And he could change water into wine. It's like, yeah, big deal. Like monks back then could do that and shit. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Back then, things were less materialized. People who like knew how to focus and stuff, they could like, manipulate shit and everything. Like, there used to be ghosts. Okay, big fucking deal. There's no more ghosts. It's too late. You can't go to a haunted house and see a real ghost anymore. Who cares?
Just in time for Halloween.
Like, does it fucking change the system? Like, oh no, I know ghosts are real. It's like, what does it matter?
Well, because if ghosts were real,
if everybody knew,
to scare Putin into backing down.
Yes, Putin. Trick or treat. He's like, nuclear missile or treat.
There you go.
Isn't that actually like what it is?
I think this whole thing is just a way, the Putin thing is just a way of keeping everybody in constant fear and being like, you know what, guys, that whole Cold War thing, it's actually pretty effective at keeping everybody in line. And
Yeah.
let's do that like Cold War 3.0, you know? So it's like we're not at war, but we are. It's like we're not at war, right? Like no one has declared war with us or anything like that. And yet we got to sacrifice everybody. You know, I know gas prices are going up, but it's for the war. Like, what war? Well, I know we're not in a war, but like, you know, somebody's in
Okay.
a war. So you're like, what?
This is so fascinating. Yesterday, I was chatting with my grandpa, who he was like born in 1932. So I was asking him, I was like, okay, so when you were born, do you remember as a kid, like, was there enough money and food and stuff, or it was like Great Depression times? He's like telling me some stories. I was like, so what was it like when it got like, what made that change? He's like, oh, World War II. He's like, as soon as World War II started, everything came in. There's all these new entrepreneurs. It was just so matter of fact. And I was like, oh wow, wow, right in front of my eyes. It's like that's the profit machine. Has always been war.
Think about that though. You go into a depression, and the only way you know how to get out is to create a bunch of conflict.
Wow.
Instead of just like in a principled way being like, all right, breathe. Let's actually work together. Let's stand up. Let's like, how can we work together? Instead, it's like, let's go to war. Let's have conflict. Yeah, that'll get us out of that. Oh yeah, now I'm excited. Now I'm pumped. Yeah, let's do it. And you're like,
Then it's like,
okay,
then let's all.
what's that going to create later?
Fuck. Baby boomer time. It's like crazy. And then it was like the age of love, and then like Pink Floyd and LSD and the whole fucking Timothy Leary thing,
Yeah.
right? And then the 80s Cold War. Wow. Cycles. Are we going to evolve to the next level, or are we going to devolve?
Or are we gonna recycle? Are we going to
Or I
Are we
recycle.
going to evolve or revolve?
revolve? Yeah, that's it.
That's the choice. Evolve or revolve, because everything so far that we call evolution has just been revolving.
Mhm.
And it's all it's been doing is just upgrading the system into new levels of control. That's it. Like the hippie revolution. Oh, they've been talking about love. It's like all it did was create the sexual revolution, which got women even more away from men and put more competition.
Mhm.
That's all that happened. And then people don't give a shit. And they introduced that allowed them to introduce the birth control pill, like straight out of a fucking dystopian novel. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, tell me one dystopian novel where they don't have like birth control pills, and it's like they control the population through like who can have birth and what they breed them specifically and all this stuff, right?
Oh shit. Yeah.
And then I heard this thing of like something like 80% of the what do you call it, the Planned Parenthood clinics are like within a very small distance from like an underprivileged, like minority predominant neighborhood or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like literally population control.
Yeah. Oh, that was what was I listening to? It was John Taylor Gatto and Alex Jones interview. Oh, I probably shouldn't say his name.
John Taylor Gatto, I know it's pretty
You should not be
controversial.
named. The man got fined like $1 billion for that whole Sandy Hook thing. That's crazy. But yeah, he's like literally explaining all the whole like genetic eugenicists. I think that'd be how you say it. Yeah, I mean it's like in the open from back in the day, and it would started with right around World War II, and then now it's been pushed where it's like
It
you
started before
basically-
that, actually. Before
well,
World War
yeah,
II.
I'm sure it's been since Jesus era and before, but like systematically reducing the population with lower income people.
Mhm.
It's wild. They showed clips of some movies. It was crazy. I think I was watching Alex Jones Endgame. I think that's some shit like
It's
that.
Avengers Endgame.
Oh yeah, my bad. Imagine Alex Jones as part of the Avengers. That would be hilarious. His voice and everything. But
In front of the frogs, gay.
that's like the plot line of the new one. There's like a bunch of gay frogs and they're like taking over the planet.
Transgender frogs.
Yeah. Anyway, but he explains all this stuff like Dalton and oh, okay, they had this video that they would show in schools. They literally showed the clip of the thing, and they were explaining. They're like, okay, little Cindy, it's like this black and white film. They're like, okay, little Cindy, because you didn't pass this test at a high enough level, you're gonna have to go to the doctor and get it's called a sterilization. And little Cindy's like, sterile, what? And then they're like, yeah, like we've deemed it that, you know, you are not like able to have kids. She's like, but I don't want that. And they're like, now, Cindy, you be a good girl or else I'm going to have to bring in officer blah, blah, blah to like help. And it's like literally a movie that they would show in schools.
Wow.
So what you're saying is schools would participate in sterilizing children.
Not schools. Schools would serve as a filtering function to see who is smart and who is not smart in that
So
system.
you're saying
Then-
a school would have a kid and confuse them about their gender and then put them on sterilizing hormone drugs.
Cameron. This is sounding more and more like hate speech with every word you say.
That's true. You know what? Why are people so? See, they say it's hate speech, but I thought I was afraid.
Yes,
I thought it was
phobic.
transphobic.
You're a
So
phobic.
is it that I hate
Hater.
trans people, or is it that I'm afraid of them? Which is it?
You're a transogenist. You're a transogenist. I'm pretty sure that that's the hate part, right?
Maybe. Yeah, that usually comes along with it.
Yeah.
Huh.
We were talking with a teacher over the weekend, and she was telling us, well, somebody who works in a school, and she was telling us how, well, it's really clear to her the brainwashing that's going on in school, and also how over the last 2 years, especially, has been a huge pit. What was I going to say? What was that word I was going to say? It sounded like piss.
Pit?
Push.
Oh.
Huge push to push kids, like promote LGBT things to kids on schools' websites, giving them like books and things
So
like that.
weird.
Yeah, it's really
Isn't the whole point of LGBT just about sex? Like that is the
Um,
point of it, right?
Who you want to sleep with?
So why are we
Yeah.
talking? Why are I mean,
like, who do you love?
I did school. It's like it's not. Why are they brainwashing people in that way at the brainwashing factory? I don't understand. It's like we know why, but just even the
It's-
logic of if you're assuming it's just about like teaching them math and science and stuff, it's like, but now you're just deliberately talking to kids about sex all the time. Like
Right.
what?
Like when before were they actually talking about building a family? Because that's the guys that they're using for it now. Is like, this is about family and what's important to families, things like that. And
But it's really about like your family is an old program. They don't accept the new program. So we want to give you support when you're not with your family, because in that way you can go and be brainwashed even when you're not at home and realize that your parents are just trying to hold you back and like create more division in the family.
get the update. Everybody
Right.
come get the new update.
It's like when our relatives would call us like, did you get the vaccine? And we're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Did you get fucking hot dogs when you went to Walmart? Why are you asking me to buy this specific product? Go away.
Right.
It's like if I
Right.
call somebody like, hey, did you buy some Pepsi today? I'm like, what? Why do you care?
Because if you don't drink the Pepsi, you're putting me at danger of my idea about how.
You're
Because
putting me at danger of finding out later that it never was tested on actually stopping the spread and transmission of it.
I watched
Hey.
a commercial about Pepsi, and the commercial was it brings everybody together. So I'm asking if you bought the Pepsi so we can all
Yeah,
get together
yeah,
again.
It makes us all get together. It changes the world. It's a new generation. Come
Have you
on,
not
guys.
watched-
Selena Gomez? in
Come
it.
on.
Guys, why didn't you drink the Coke? Like, the polar bears, it's Christmas time. Come on. You're like, that's just marketing, right?
Cameron? I prefer to call it a dramatization.
A dramatization.
Okay. I have to jump off, but you can keep going. And I just want to say this. Guess what number 24 is on the top movies? I was just about to close this.
What?
Captain America, Civil War. All right. So before it's too late.
But that
It made the top 25.
All right. I have to jump. See ya.
See ya.
Yeah. So I mean, you want to keep going or you want to wrap it up? What's up?
No, I think we can wrap it up. Make it short and sweet today.
All right. Sounds good. So yeah, I mean, if you watch this and you're sitting on the sidelines, you are way too tolerant. You are way too tolerant of the BS that's coming into your body, literally. Like, there are vaccines coming into your body. There are ostensibly elite
Crickets.
crickets. Okay, crickets that are coming into your body. There are elite pedophiles that want to come into your body.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah, it's just like, and mentally you are too tolerant for it. You are allowing it. Stop. Take a stand. Like, find out not find out, but get clear on who you are, what you're here to do. And if you're listening to this, it should be really clear. It should be really clear already. We are here to create a world that is best for all, right? Simply put. And what that means is stopping this consumerism. Like, why are you just living for consumerism? How does that even make sense? Is that what you're here to do? It's like what you were bringing up earlier, Cam, about, okay, God creates this world. Like, why wouldn't he just put you in heaven? Right. And if you are here as a test, okay, then what are you doing? You look like you're failing that test. If you look around.
Oh, but God, he has to test you. And I'm like, so he has to follow rules. Well, sounds like you're limiting God.
Well, he created the rules. Okay,
but
so
he wants you to freely choose him. Like, why? Why does he have to hold himself to that rule? Why couldn't he just create sheep?
Right.
Because you're not a sheep, right?
Well, I mean, we sing it in our songs. We are sheep.
Okay, so you are a sheep. So he does want followers.
Yeah.
So why didn't he just create you the way he wanted in the first place? Well, he has to choose freely because we're not slaves, but I am a slave to you, Lord. And you're like, dude, choose a side.
I'm not a slave. I'm a servant. Okay.
It's like, that's what happens with low vocabulary. You know, you just change the wording up and they're like, oh, no, I'm off. I'm not a slave anymore.
Not a slave. Not if it means I have to.
Just a sheep. Just a sheep.
No.
If I have to stand up as a sovereign being within myself and choose always what is best for all, guys, that sounds like slavery. Okay. I need to be free and just follow the dictates of the Lord. That's freedom.
Yeah.
And I need to just do what he says, his commands, because I have to freely choose him. So I follow. I'm just gonna watch Avatar. You know what? Fuck this. That's it.
But actually consider this. I just saw this in what you were saying. If I have to be a sovereign being and choose always what is best for all, the main quarrel that people have with that is that they have to always choose what's best for all. And their immediate thought is, that sounds like slavery, because they're thinking, I will make mistakes. I will fuck it up. But if you were forgiven for your sins, if you've been let go of sin, like you're not beholden to the sin, meaning the mistakes, that like you don't have to fuck it up. Now, that doesn't mean you can't make mistakes.
We're gonna make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We're not always doing what's best, but we have to be honest and look at this.
But what I'm saying is, like, people make it seem as if, like, well, no, I'm captive to like fucking it up. I can't always choose what's best. It's like, that is the point, that if you are actually forgiven for your sins, if you're actually letting go of that, then yes, that's the point to strive for. That is what we're here to do what is always best. And so be a sovereign being, make the decision, okay, I'm not going to allow this back door of I need to fuck it up. I'm going to fuck it up. And so don't even try. It's like, what? That's retarded. That's literally like, you are slowing yourself down. You are retarded. You have delayed yourself. Stop.
But then also using the excuse that, no, I have to be free. I don't want to be a slave.
Right. Well, that's the justification of it, right? That's the low vocabulary of like, oh, just switch this word here, and see, now I'm free.
Now you understand in 1984 when they say freedom is slavery.
There it is.
It's showing you like how you twist the points back and forth, and you're not really clear on any of it. That's well said, Jake.
Yeah. So stop the slavery in your own mind. Be an actual sovereign to yourself, and join us.
See you next time.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.